I have been watching this show for almost 5 years. You know how long I've been waiting for Buddy? Almost 5 years! Hi, I'm Claudia and I am so excited for the new season of 911. I mean, I'm not super excited, not like I was for the start of season 8 for, obvious reasons. But still, it's been like 6 months since season 8 ended and I need it back so bad. As I'm filming this, we have like 2 weeks to go, so we've almost made it, thank God. But before we get there, I wanted to do a little video talking about what I hope will happen in season 9 and also what I hope will not happen in season 9. Some of these things will be based off actual like behind the scenes content we've got, and some things will just be things I've thought of. There is no in the middle here. Also, sorry if I sound a bit weird. I'm like quite ill at the moment, but if I don't film today, I don't think I'll be able to film this video till season 9 has already started. So it's gotta be today. That also might be why I look kind of pale, because I'm ill. So I'm just gonna film this video and hope and pray my voice doesn't give out. But also this video will contain spoilers for not only the first 8 seasons of 911, but also all of the behind the scenes content we've got for season 9 so far. So if you don't wanna know anything, maybe don't watch this video. But anyway, I'm going to start with one of the like big first pieces of behind the scenes content that we got, which is that we're having a Halloween episode. And this Halloween episode was confirmed when we saw, the giant inflatable pumpkin rolling down the streets of LA. I loved that pumpkin. It was so funny. I kept telling my family about it. They did not care, but I thought it was hilarious. Like, I just get updates on my phone being like, the pumpkins died, the pumpkins are inflated again, they've got another pumpkin. It was great. But with the Halloween episode, obviously we had one last season as well. And last season's Halloween episode was so good. Like, we had Buck being cursed, we had Denny being crushed by a car. There was a lot going on, but it was really good. But obviously now we have another Halloween episode coming, which now means we need more Halloween storylines pretty quickly after we had the last Halloween ones. And when that Halloween episode aired last year, I was thinking a lot about what I would want from my perfect Halloween episode, and I have my thoughts. First of all, give me a Buck and Eddie couples costume. Please. They don't even have to be dating yet. Like, I don't care. They did matching costumes for Chim's bachelor party. They can do it for Halloween. I would also love it if it's like a group costume with Chris, but I don't know if they'll do that because I don't know how they're gonna like play the relationship between Chris and Eddie yet. Like, if it's gonna still kind of be like kind of awkward because they've just moved back to LA together on everything, like, I'm fine with them leaving Chris out. But if like Chris is there and everything's good, then I would love a group costume. Also, I would like Maddie and Chim to have a matching costume, preferably matching with Gian and Baby Bobby. That would be very cute. Dress Baby Bobby as a pumpkin. It would be great. But obviously costumes would only be like a relatively small part of the episode. Most of it would be like Halloween themed emergencies. And obviously, as I've said, we already know about the giant pumpkin, but from the videos people were taking like of the set that day, it seems to be a just Athena storyline. So for the 118 gang, I would love to see some really good Halloween emergencies. And I mean really good as in really funny. Don't want the trauma that came from last year and Denny almost dying. That was not as fun. I would like the nice stuff. Like, I want the guy who got his head stuck in a pumpkin, that kind of energy I want them to bring into this year. Like, maybe they go to a patient who's like covered in boils and Buck thinks he passed the curse from last year onto this poor guy and he is like so apologetic about it. Obviously, just based on like the dates when the show is airing, we know the Halloween episode is going to be within the first few episodes of this season. Like, it's not a mid-season finale or a season finale, it's not a season premiere either. I'm just happy with them having a little fun time on Halloween. Although if they wanted to go intense, I would love to see an episode where the characters are like haunted by their past near-death experiences. They kind of did this last year with episode 6 Confessions, when they had to go and like rescue someone who had fallen down a well, like when Eddie had to rescue a child who had fallen down a well. And they went to the hotshot set and someone was hanging off the ladder like Buck was after he got struck by lightning. But there was like no acknowledgement about how those two situations had reflected their past experiences. So I'd love to see it done like actually that way. Like, give me a scene where Eddie is stood in the exact same spot where he was shot and the camera is like panning around the exact same way they did in that episode in season 4. And then there's some kind of loud bang somewhere and Buck freaks out thinking Eddie's got shot again. Like, I would love that. And then we can bring in Buck and Eddie getting together like they were planned to back in season 4. Like, I would love that so much. Or a scene where Buck is climbing up the ladder from the truck and it's really high and it's raining and there's a loud bang and Eddie thinks he's been struck by lightning again. Yes, please. And it's like kind of a Halloween episode because these characters are being haunted by their past experiences, but it's not like Halloween is in costume, spooky, haunted house type vibe. Just like if they're not gonna go for like a funny Halloween episode, I'd rather go like completely the other direction and do what we all expected Confessions to be. But enough about Halloween episodes, let's talk about what else I want from this season. Number 1, Buddy Cannon. Do I need to say any more? I have been watching this show for almost 5 years. You know how long I've been waiting for Buddy? Almost 5 years. The first time I watched it, the first 3 seasons were out in the UK. And I was on the buddy train from that point. And now here we are, 5 years later, and they're still not together. We are so close. Like, we are within a touching distance of buddy canon. And I'm so excited. However, I will be very annoyed if they give Buck or Eddie another love interest. Like, let's not do that. Let's save the women of LA and just let them get together. And if you don't know, a few months ago, a picture from set was posted by someone, I forget who, and in the back there's like a trailer where the actors, hang out. And there's like some names taped onto the side of the trailer, as in like that's whose trailer it is. And I don't remember who else is on there, but I remember there was one name, Gina. We do not currently have a Gina in 911, and people were panicking, thinking it's going to be another love interest. Most likely, I'm expecting it to be some random person at an emergency who just gets a name for like whatever reason. However, if this Gina is like a major character in an episode, I would like it to play like this. Eddie goes on a blind or maybe like somewhat arranged date with Gina. He spends the entire time talking about Buck. Gina looks at him and goes, "You spent this entire date talking about your best friend. Maybe you should be on the date with that guy." Eddie realizes he likes Buck. There we go. That would be what I want, and I think it'd be really funny if they play it like they're actually considering this as to be like a proper love interest for Eddie. Like in the first half of the episode, they're talking about this like this could be like Eddie's first date since like everything happened with Kim, and everyone's really excited for him and helping him out, picking like an outfit and stuff. And all the fans are panicking, thinking another woman from LA is about to be traumatized by Eddie Diaz. But then they trick us, and actually the date is a way for Buddy to get together. I would love that. And Buddy wouldn't even have to get together like in that episode. Just having Eddie realize that he has feelings for Buck is enough for me. Personally, I do think they'll save Buddy canon for like an important moment. And by that I either mean the full season finale, so like next April, or the mid-season premiere, so when it comes back after Christmas. Just because if they leave it on a cliffhanger for the break and then they solve the cliffhanger after the break, then they're going to get a load of press, and I think they'd be kind of stupid not to do that. You got to think of things from a marketing perspective here. Like, they want the ratings, they want the press, they're going to do it on an episode where a lot of people will be talking about it. However, my dream for what happens with Buddy canon, and I might make this into a fanfic, so I'm only going to give you the bare bones. I had this idea when we got the episode title for the season 8 finale, Seismic Shifts. Like, we knew there was going to be a building collapse, we knew Eddie would be back as a firefighter in LA, so I had like ideas. I thought there would be some kind of building collapse. At the time, I did think the building would be the government lab they were holding Bobby Nash in, but we're just gonna like ignore that bit for a second because there's a building collapse. Buck and Eddie get trapped in some room together. They're not gravely injured. In fact, they're not really majorly injured at all. They're just kind of like got a few scrapes and bruises, but they are stuck. And the rest of the team is trying to dig them out. And during this time where they're stuck, Buck and Eddie start talking, just chatting while they're stuck there. And at this point, Eddie is still planning on going back to Texas. And then they start arguing about that because Buck's like, "You don't belong in Texas, you belong here in LA." And Eddie's like, "But my son's in Texas." And then Buck's like, "I know Chris is in Texas and I want you to be with Chris, but you should bring Chris home." And then they start arguing. And in the end, Buck lets it slip that he's in love with Eddie. And following that confession, the episode ends. I thought that's how they were going to end season 8, which would have been so good, but anyway, imagine that season 9 mid-season finale. We come back after the break, the episode starts, and everyone's acting normal. Everyone's acting normal, nothing seems to have changed, which is really odd considering the way we left all the characters at the end of the last episode. Then we find out it's been 3 weeks, and turns out Eddie was a bit more injured than everyone thought, and he had a little bit of a concussion, so he's been off duty. And we get a little flashback where we find out that straight after Buck confessed his love to Eddie, they dig them out. And Buck and Eddie don't get a chance to talk to each other straight afterwards. And then the next day, when Buck goes to visit Eddie in the hospital, Eddie has forgotten the entire day that happened when that building collapse happened because he had, a little bit of a concussion. Eddie doesn't remember Buck saying he loves him. Eddie doesn't know that ever happened. And Buck decides, this is for the best. That way I don't have to go through the whole awkward thing of like him rejecting me. Like, let's just pretend that never happened and ignore it. However, Eddie comes back to work. Buck's struggling to ignore it more than he thought he would. And then at that point, Eddie looks at Buck and he remembers that something happened that day, something important, and he can't remember what. So he goes to talk to his little priest friend. The priest? We all love the priest. And the priest, instead of talking in juice metaphors, tells Eddie, "You're in love with your best friend. Go kiss him." Maybe not as direct as that, but you get my point. He stops talking in juice metaphors. Eddie now remembers what Buck says, goes over to Buck's house, kisses him. We have Buddy canon. This is my imagination, obviously, but I think this would be really good because, firstly, it goes across a mid-season break, which means there's going to be a lot of press. Everyone's going to be talking about it. More people are going to want to tune in to the show coming back after break. Number 2, it gives people Buddy canon without having to wait for too long because people are starting to get annoyed with how long we've been waiting for Buddy canon now. And number 3, it is a satisfying getting together moment. It's not something that's rushed or done over a time skip. There is a time skip, but it makes sense, and we still get the full kind of effect of them falling in love and also confessing their love in a near-death experience, but also not doing it in a near-death experience, so everyone's happy. Anyway, that's just my personal feelings on how I think buddies should get together, but they could literally do anything at this point and I'd be sold. However, I also do hope they do it at mid-season, because then we're not going to get a time skip. From what I've seen, myself and a lot of other buddy fans are worried that they'll get together right in a season finale and then we'll have a time skip before the next season, so we don't get to see the early stages of their relationship. We just have an episode where they get together, and then the next episode they're in like an established relationship and have been for like 6 months. And I don't want that. I want the like slightly awkward first stages where they're going on dates together even though they know everything about each other, and the dates feel awkward but also not awkward, and they're trying too hard, and it's great. It also could give us some secret relationship episodes. Like, give me a few episodes where Buck and Eddie are together but they're not telling anyone apart from like maybe Chris, because Chris deserves to know the truth at this point about his dad's love life. And we can get like them hiding their relationship and trying not to let anything slip to anyone. And Buck really wants to tell Maddie but he's not, because Eddie doesn't want to tell anyone yet, and I would love it so much. And then like give me the stupidest situation where they end up revealing it, like something that they could have lied their way out so easily but they're just forgotten, or they're just like really tired. And then I hope they go for the full fan fiction route and have the entire firehouse have been betting on them for the past several years. Like straight after they reveal it, someone tells Hen to go get the whiteboard. She goes into a random storage cupboard, gets this giant whiteboard out, which has everyone's bets on it. And it's not just like the main gang, there's like extended family people on here. Like obviously you've got the main gang at the firehouse, you know, you've got Ravi, Chimney, Hen, Bobby, maybe not Bobby anymore. Oh god. Like if they do that, can they just leave Bobby on this little whiteboard and just like say, oh, we didn't want to take him off? Like that would make me happy, please. But then also you've obviously got Athena on there, you've got Maddie on there, you end up with May Grant on there, Sue from the call centre, Josh, Harry, Chris, which like is slightly outside of the firehouse but still not too far. You also have all of the firefighters from not only A shift but all of the other shifts at the 118. Karen's on there, Denny's on there, even Mara's on there. You've got like Taylor on there, which I think would be so funny, because as much as I don't like Taylor for Buck, I think Taylor would have definitely seen the tension between Buck and Eddie and been like, Hen, can I get in on this bet, please? You've got the priest on there. Bobby recruited him into the bet a few years ago. Just think of like the most out there minor character who we haven't seen in like multiple seasons time, and they're in on the bet. They tell them like, you know, the bet's been going for at least 5 years at this point. Hen and Athena are struggling to keep up with how much money is technically in the pot. They say they have this whole system of people putting a certain amount of money for their first bet, and then every time they have to change their bet afterwards, they have to add money to it. And it's just all these people listed with dates next to their names of when they think Buck and Eddie are going to get together. And for the people who have been like in on this bet since the very beginning, there's a number of crossed out dates by their name for all of the dates they've guessed previously. I mean, I would love if they do this, that like Bobby wins like from the grave. I think that would be like the blessing that Buck would need to be like, oh, Bobby approved of me and Eddie being together, you know? But if they're not going to do that, I think it'd be really funny if like whoever won, they did like a full like presentation ceremony where they're given like a cardboard crown and they're officially told how much money is in the pot, and it's like an extortionate amount. I always think it'd be really funny if like Chris won and he turned around to like Buck and Eddie and he just goes, I'm taking you to Disneyland because I've just won like $5,000. I just think that'd be really good. I think it'd be so funny. But to talk about some more stuff I hope for season 9 that isn't buddy related, I really hope we get some more of Karen and Mara and Denny. I love Karen and I think she deserves more screen time. That adoption with Mara at the end of the last season was not good enough. In a little montage alongside like Athena grieving Bobby, not good enough. Also, why are Athena and Hen going to space and not Karen, the literal rocket scientist? I hope they haven't forgotten that Karen is a rocket scientist and like in the first episode they're like, oh, Karen can't go for whatever reason, so Athena's going with Hen instead. Something that just explains why Karen, the rocket scientist, isn't going to space, please. Also, I'd love to see more from Ravi. Unfortunately, he is not a main for this season, which makes me so angry, but I would still love to hear more about his childhood. Like, no one has ever talked about Ravi's trauma. Can we get Ravi Begins? Please, I think everyone wants it. But on the flip side, now that we know that the actors who play May and Harry have been promoted to season regulars, we can assume they're going to be in more stuff this season. Now, from like the leaks from set, we know that Harry is going to be with the 118 on some calls in the first few episodes. And like the kids' age in the 911 universe has always been a bit like fluid. No one's really quite sure how old they are. So if Harry is 18, it could be plausible that he's doing some ride-alongs to kind of prepare himself and see if he does really want to be a firefighter. And the same could obviously work if he's not 18 yet, but we just have to wait a couple of seasons for him to be a probie at the station. Or it could be completely unrelated and he just wants to do some ride-alongs because he misses Bobby and he wants to see what Bobby was doing all day. That would be really cute. But because he's been promoted to a main cast member, I do feel like we're going to see him more. And for me, I think he's going to be first few episodes doing ride-alongs, middle of the season like in the Firefighter Academy, and he pops in every once in a while, and at the end of the season we find out he's going to be the new probie for the 118. We know from that video they posted, I think it was for Angela Bassett's birthday, that Chim's going to be captain at least at the start of the season, which means there's definitely going to be an empty space in the A-Shift team. Also, I think we've seen like in some videos that Eddie seems to be going on paramedic calls, which means there's a space open for Buck's partner, which Ravi seems to be filling at the start of the season. But as Ravi has not been promoted to season regular, it would make more sense for Harry to kind of fill that role as Buck's partner. However, they would have to do a time skip at mid-season to make that work, because otherwise, like, Harry's going through the Fire Academy in like 3 months. On the other side, with May being promoted to series regular, which I'm so happy about, I've missed her so much. Some people think she's going to be taking kind of a Taylor Kelly kind of role in the series, where she's focused on journalism and she's trying to become a journalist and she's reporting on a lot of the 118's like emergencies. Some people also think she might be going back to the call centre. I think we've done with that storyline. I think she's more likely to become a journalist, but I'm happy to see her in like whatever capacity we have. We know because we've seen the stills from when they're doing that dedication ceremony for like the Robert Wayne Nash 118 station or whatever the stupid long name is, that May and Harry are there. Obviously it makes sense, as his stepkids they would be there, and they're all dressed up in like very formal outfits. All the firefighters are in their like full dress uniform, like we've seen that. But then I think it was yesterday, the actress who plays May, who I cannot remember the name of right now, like I'm ill and my brain isn't working, but I can't remember her name, but she posted a TikTok where they're all in costume and the firefighters are in their dress uniform, but the ones who aren't firefighters aren't in the same outfits that we saw at the dedication ceremony. So there is some other formal event happening in the first few episodes of the season, but we don't know what that is. Now, notably, Harry is not in the dress uniform, thank God, otherwise I'd say it could be Harry's graduation for the Fire Academy, in which case there'd be a major time skip somewhere between episodes like 3 and 4. But it could be another commendation ceremony like we had after the whole cruise ship thing in season 7. That's my best guess, considering what we know about the opening emergency being like space themed. Maybe they get a commendation from saving the city from like falling space parts. But who knows, there's some other formal event when we get to see him all in dress uniform again, and I'm okay with that. We've also seen, this was like earlier today, I think I saw this being posted about, that the actors who play Mr. and Mrs. Lee have been seen on set, which makes sense. They're probably there in scenes with like Baby Bobby and like Gian, that kind of thing. Also, yes, I've been calling him Baby Bobby because I love the alliteration of that, but I do hope they don't call the baby Bobby. Like, we don't need a literal child called Bobby. That's such an old-fashioned name. And also it's gonna get so confusing because you have 2 Bobbies in the same universe and it will just be too much. Anyway, yes, I expect there to be some scenes with Mr. and Mrs. Lee and Baby Bobby. That would make sense. But I also hope we see some scenes of Baby Bobby like at the Bobby Nash firehouse. I just think we should have Baby Bobby in the Bobby firehouse. It makes sense. And now for a few things I hope they do not do with this season, because I've talked about a lot of the stuff I want them to do and now some stuff I really don't want them to do. Writing Ravi out would actually wreck me. I hope they don't do that, and that's not the reason why he hasn't been promoted to series regular. I'm hoping next season they'll finally see the light and think, oh, maybe we should promote him, and then we'll get Ravi Main and Ravi Begins and it'll be so good. Also, I hope they do not try and give Athena another love interest. We don't need that. The thing I'm worried about with that is that yesterday the actress who plays young Athena was seen on set, which means either Athena flashback or Athena begins again. And when we have a begins episode, quite often means it's like a turning point for the characters, and Athena's one that would make sense is that she gets over Bobby and starts dating again. But I don't think we need that. I do not want this. I'm just saying from like an outside perspective, I could see it as something they could do, but I hate the idea of that. Let her grieve. She doesn't need another love interest, in my opinion, for the rest of the show. Also, I've already mentioned how I don't want another love interest for Buck or Eddie unless it's, you know, the 2 of them getting together. I wouldn't mind like a 1 episode thing where one of them is on a date with someone and they figure out they don't want to be on a date with them because they want to be on a date with their best friend. That's fine. But like a major love interest who's in multiple episodes and has like a whole season arc, I don't really want that. I'm just slightly worried that they do that because Eddie hasn't been in a relationship since the end of season 7 and Buck broke up with Tommy right near the beginning of season 8, so it's been a while for both of them. And TV shows like a good romance plotline to like hook viewers and bring them in, but I really hope they don't give them another love interest. Just let them date each other. Or we could get another season where they don't date each other but they get closer to realising, or they do realise their feelings but they just don't get together till the start of season 10. I wouldn't mind that. It just is taking a while. Like, we expected it to happen pretty quickly once ABC took over the show and it still hasn't happened. And it's just now been quite a while of waiting, and some people are starting to get really quite tired of of the waiting, so I hope they do it soon. But I think that's all my like hopes and dreams and also things I don't want from season 9 of 911. If you have anything you really want from season 9, leave it in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, I have to be kind of awkward and cringy and ask you to like and maybe subscribe. I make a lot of videos mostly about fanfiction, but a lot of them are about 911 fanfiction, so if you read that, you'll probably enjoy most of my other stuff. I also do write 911 fanfiction, so if you want to go read it, there'll be a link to my AO3 profile in the description. There'll also be a link down below to my Twitter and my TikTok. On TikTok, I post new fanfiction related videos literally every single day, so you'll probably find something you like down there. I really hope you enjoy season 9 of 911. I know it's been a bit of a struggle getting here after Bobby died, but let's hope they do some good things with this next season. So yeah, I've been Claudia. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye! There better not be another love interest for Buck and Eddie.